Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Barry Boyce, Editor-in-Chief of Mindful.org. I'm at the International Symposia for Contemplative Studies in Denver, Colorado. And we're here with Charlie Halpern, who heads the Berkeley Initiative for Mindfulness and Law. Charlie, could you tell folks a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing what you're doing?
A long time ago, I was practicing law in Washington, D.C. in one of the big firms, and some friends and I got together and we had the idea of starting what became known as a public interest law firm. It was called the Center for Law and Social Policy. It was one of the first of its kind, and I was doing there mostly environmental litigation and trying to develop the legal rights of mentally ill and mentally retarded people. And I did that for a while, and then I had an opportunity to go to New York City and start a public interest law firm in the City University of New York. I knew it was going to be an exciting opportunity, a chance to rethink what legal education ought to be like. And
Excuse me, Charlie, you said law firm. I believe you meant law school.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you wanted to say that again.
I went to New York to start a new public interest law school at the City University of New York. And I knew it was going to be heavy lifting, trying to redesign the law school curriculum and work within the confines of a financially strapped university in a city which was rather cynical about the whole notion of public interest. And I got there, and it was an exciting opportunity. We developed a wonderful team of people to develop this new curriculum and create everything new, a new recruitment program for students, different criteria for accepting students, an unusual career placement program so that our students could get public interest law jobs. And it was exhausting. I found myself under enormous pressure dealing with a hostile state legislature, a skeptical bureaucracy. And at that point, a friend of mine who was an experienced Buddhist practitioner came up to me and said, you know, if you tried meditation, that might help you deal with the stress of this impossible job. And I said, well, what good is meditation going to do me? Because I really didn't know anything about it at the time. And he gave me the simplest instructions. Pay attention to the breath. When your mind wanders, draw it back into the present moment. And I said, is that really going to do me any good when I have a tense confrontation with the head of the City University? He said, give it a try. It's not going to cure all your problems, but it may well help you deal with the stress. So I started my meditation practice at that point. And over time, it did give me the kind of benefit I anticipated. And then it also turned out that it was opening lots of other doors to me. And I got more deeply into my meditation practice, started attending retreats and working with some experienced teachers. And it became an important part of my life. And then when I left that deanship, after we had graduated our first two classes, I became president of a new foundation called the Nathan Cummings Foundation. And we were trying to figure out what our grants program should look like. And I got into a number of conversations which suggested that mindfulness meditation might be an interesting area for grant making. I hooked up with Daniel Goleman, the author of Emotional Intelligence, and an experienced meditator. And we talked a lot about how to move ahead with that. And we built a meditation program that really became very influential and successful. At that point, in the early 90s, there really was no philanthropic interest in meditation, except for a couple of other foundations that we started to work with. And then after we did that for a few years, we thought it would be nice to set up a new program that would help bring meditation into the into mainstream institutional life. I met Mirabai Bush, who became the executive director of that new program. I became the chairman of the board. Our foundation gave him some startup money. And we started a number of programs to bring meditation into corporations, into the media, into legal education. And
that's the Center for Contemplative Mind and Society, Charles?
Yes, that's the center. So we called it the Center for Contemplative Mind and Society. You see in the name, it's about contemplative mind, about this state of mindful awareness, and we wanted it, not that we weren't supporting their work in monasteries or in traditional settings in which meditation was practiced, but we were doing this in a way to bring meditation practice into institutions where we felt it could have an important and beneficial effect. And the center became a very influential point for the development of that. Among other things, we set up an academic fellowship program to support professors in universities around the country in various disciplines who wanted to bring mindfulness into their work in whatever their discipline was, whether they were historians or psychologists or comparative literature professors or sociology. So we did that in partnership with the American Council for Learned Societies, which is a very influential trade association for the academic disciplines. And then in the year 2000, I left the foundation and my wife and I moved to Berkeley, and that's where the next phase began.
So tell us about your work at Berkeley and continuing and doing mindfulness programs for lawyers. Basically, what's going on today with your work with mindfulness and the legal profession and the world of justice.
Well, when I came out to Berkeley, I connected with the dean at the law school there, who was a good friend of some of my friends from the East Coast, Christopher Edley, a former professor at Harvard Law School and formerly a senior domestic policy advisor in both the Carter and the Clinton White Houses. And we talked some about my interest in mindfulness. And we agreed that I would come over to the law school once a week and start an informal meditation group for law students and any members of the faculty or staff who wanted to join us. And for a number of years, I led this informal meditation group. And as I was going to the law school more regularly, I realized there was this growing interest in the student body, the students I was seeing, in this subject. And I went to see the dean about starting a course for credit for law students. I explained to him the reasons why I thought that mindfulness meditation was an important professional skill for lawyers to have. I suggested to him that this capacity to be intimately focused in the present moment and to stay present and to be able to be fully attentive with everything that's going on around you and to be able to process that without getting defensive and without getting personally engaged was a really important skill for lawyers to have. He said, well, if you want to teach a 2-credit course and if you can get 10 students to sign up for it, then it's fine. Why don't you go ahead and do it? He is somebody who has a real sense of innovation, and though he wasn't a meditator himself, he understood how it could be a really important skill for lawyers to be more effective in their practice and also to have a kind of equanimity and balance that would make their lives in law more sustainable. So we called the seminar Effective and Sustainable Law Practice, the Meditative Perspective. We put it in the catalog, and then we waited to see if anybody was going to sign up. And to my great surprise, the first time the course was offered, we had 40 people sign up. We limited it to 20, and I've now just finished the 4th time through with the course, and we've run it with 20 students each year and a substantial waiting list each year. And I think what's impressed him, besides the fact that it seems to be meeting a real student interest and student need, which is a big deal for a dean after all, In addition was the fact that the people who took the course were overwhelmingly very impressed by it and very positively engaged with the meditation practice. So that each year the course is offered, there are a significant number of students who say that this was the most important course they took in law school, or that this should be a required course for all first-year students. When a dean sees that kind of commentary, he's impressed. And we're right on the cusp of an important change this year because of the latest development. 6 months ago, he and I agreed that I would come on to head what we were calling the Berkeley Initiative for Mindfulness in Law. So we're going to go beyond my one course, which was meeting an obvious student need, and instead we were going to try to expand the course offerings that were grounded in mindfulness, and also to try to exercise leadership in the law community generally, outside the law school. In that regard, he was impressed by a conference that we held 18 months ago on the mindful lawyer. We invited lawyers and students and professors from around the country to come to a conference to explore mindfulness in law. And we thought if we had 75 people there, that would be a big achievement. Instead, we had 180 attend the conference, which was our capacity, and another 50 on the waiting list. So this, again, suggested how we might reach out, not only thinking about educating Berkeley undergraduates, but also reaching out to other law schools and to the practicing bar, where we could help lawyers who are then going through a very difficult time, still are, in the legal profession. It's always been a difficult profession to practice because you're in the center of a lot of human suffering and turmoil. But since the recession, the profession has really been going through a major shakeup. And the kind of difficulties that mindfulness can help a person get through. So the idea of working not only within the law school, but also in the profession was very attractive to him, and it's very attractive to me. And we work with lawyers in the profession, but also we work with judges. In fact, one of my colleagues is today doing a workshop for California trial judges, doing mindfulness practice with the judiciary.
So we have about another minute here, Charlie. Can you just tell us what you see in the future, say in the next 3 to 5 years, as for mindfulness and law and justice?
In the coming year, we have really a unique situation at Berkeley Law. Instead of having a single course being offered in a traditional curriculum, next year students at Berkeley Law will have a choice among either 3, 4, or 5 law courses, all grounded in mindfulness, so that they can really build a curriculum around these courses. And if they conclude early on that they want to have a career in which mindfulness is going to be a central element of how they practice law, they'll be able to do so. This is a law school that really is going to offer them an opportunity to take a mindfulness-based course every year and to be part of a mindfulness community during their legal education. That is a big turning point, I think. And within the next years, I would expect to see more law schools offering more courses. There are probably 12 to 15 law schools around the country offering one or more courses in mindfulness. I think this number is going to grow, and I think the approach we're now taking, where it's not just a single course offering, but it's a number of courses, is likely to grow. Over time, I have hopes that our work with law students and with practicing lawyers is going to lead to, for many people, another way to think about practicing law. One which is bringing mindfulness into the lives of practicing lawyers and judges, and also ultimately beginning to affect the way judges make decisions and the way law is interpreted And so that legal doctrine itself will take on a more mindful dimension. And then when I see a member of Congress like Tim Ryan, I can see the potential for mindfulness coming into the law-making process in the legislature, and then that strengthening the force of what we have moving through lawyers and judges.
Thank you very much, Charlie. That's some brilliant, impressive, and inspiring work.
Thanks, Barry.